Welcome to Eternal Paradigm. Together, we're uncovering the human experience and exploring physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual stories with me, your host, Amy Ravel. Hello, welcome to this episode of Eternal Paradigm. I hope you're enjoying your journey to find you. I was delighted when my guest, who's featured in this episode, agreed to speak to me. Natali Constante is an incredibly powerful energy who is determined to help women in Latin America become financially self-sufficient and help them to break out of the cultural pressures and stereotypical ideals that allow for women and children to be abused and often end up living as victims of a male-dominated culture. I must add in a few disclaimers here. This is not to talk about anything other than simple, pure, embedded inequality that stems so deeply or is entrenched so deeply in cultural values and ideals, where it becomes the norm to be taught or to be brought up believing that you are less or your function is this. And that's not really the case, especially here. So I've been following Natali's on her social media posts, on her progress with her clients. And what really caught my attention was the questions that she was putting out there. They really got me thinking. And I realized how powerful these questions are for people who are living in these really difficult circumstances. Her energy, as I said, is truly immense, and she's so full of potential, and she's absolutely dedicated to helping others for them to ultimately be who they are. In this beautiful exploration of Natali's life, who is just great at telling stories and talking and sharing all of these experiences. She gives a snapshot of these moments that have shaped her and how she made it her mission to be the best of herself, to give her clients, the women that she empowers, a better quality of life and self-worth. In a society and a world where feeling inadequate is all too well known, Natali is passionate to change this. My guest has also traveled to 27 countries. She's vegetarian, which is something that threw me a little bit because vegetarianism isn't the norm in Latin America. For those of you who have traveled or back in a world when we could all travel, I know vegetarianism wasn't one of those things that was easy for anyone, but she is vegetarian and she explains how she came to this decision to change her diet and what it meant, her learning ultimately. She's also studied several degrees. Her ultimate mission is to be able to help women and to help children all around the world. So moving from here, I'd like to introduce my guest, Natali Constante.
Hello everybody. Thank you so much, Army, for letting me be here. This is super exciting for me because I can share with everybody something a little bit about my country, my journey, my paradise, which is the Galapagos Islands where I live. And my name is Natali Constante. I am 29 years old and I live in the Galapagos Islands. I travel a lot, and so far, right now, I am in Quito because of the COVID. So I moved to a big city, even though I constantly travel between the Galapagos Islands and in Quito. What else can I tell you about me is that I am a tourist guide also in the Galapagos, but right now also I'm focusing so much in helping women to build their online businesses in this situation of the pandemic, and also the what we have been facing last month have pushed us to start something new and also to develop other skills that we have. So I'm super excited now. This has been a journey. This has been a bless for me this year just to start something which excites me a lot, and also allows me to have the freedom to contribute and to impact more people through my job. So this is what I can tell you for a beginning, and I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, bless. No, that's lovely. And your energy is amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. Firstly, I'm really jealous because tell me right now, you're from the Galapagos Island. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in between the Galapagos Islands in Quito, and since in the Galapagos Islands, actually, the let's say in the past, the education wasn't that good. We have some schools, high school, but there's no university. There's one university now, but it's better to live to study here in the mainland. So anyway, I grew up between the Quito and the Galapagos, and I have seen how the islands have changed along the time, but at the same time it's super nice to see that the conservation keeps the animals and the ecosystem and everything around as supernatural, because we care about it, all the population in Galapagos, and also it's a national park, protected national park around the world. So that's why even if there's a lot of people already living in the Galapagos, okay, lot means maximum 30,000 people living there, but anyway, we keep the islands in a natural state. So there's only 3% of the islands is inhabited, and the rest is national park.
That's amazing. And how much of your environment and being connected to the environment has been a part of it's been a part of your upbringing, but how much of that has pushed you in your journey to where you are now?
Wow, it's so interesting, this question, and thank you so much for asking this, because always since I have memory, as I was in contact with those giant tortoises, for me it was kind of normal, like having the size of the tortoises. But then I realized that they are unique from the islands. So ever since I have a memory, I have loved biology and everything with relates with life and environment, ecosystem, and animals. So that's why actually I studied biotechnology engineer as my main degree in the university. Even though always I was super interested in conservation and in animals and how we can protect them, and also the habitat, anything that you can know about the Galapagos, the ecosystem. I was very very intrigued. So that's why I also became a tour guide there. So after working some years in a laboratory in a research center, I also went. After that, I went to work in over some elite cruise ships in the Galapagos Islands, and yeah, and I met a lot of people, a lot of influential people, celebrities, and more. And I discovered a true passion that always nature has been so much related, so much close to me. So that's why I felt like I was living something that I love, which is being in connection with nature, in conservation, and also with people. And that's something that I really love, because working with people, I discovered that after working in the Galapagos, have the contact with different people from all around the world, literally, that gave me a lot of perspective, a lot of vision, ambition too. And overall, what it's very important for me, it's the conservation. So after that, I realized that I love to help people to break through and more. So that's why I became a coach. I got a certification to become a coach, and so far I am helping women. I have a social project also running with my business too, where I help in my company to women around the world to improve their education and have more high quality education. And I focused more in these countries which don't have access to education, and I focus so much in like nature. For me has been a life changing to be in nature that close, and just to enjoy, because as I mentioned, I grew up in a city and in the Galapagos, in both places, no? So when I was in the city, I mean, I was a city woman. Like I grew up like wearing high heels and dresses and very super nice and makeup while I was in the city. But then I decided to move just definitely to the Galapagos, because that gave me more joy, let's say, or more peace. So then when I went to the Galapagos, is like the high heels, the dresses, the makeup has gone, because everything was in me. It was just a pleasure just to close your eyes and you can see the whole Milky Way at night, because you don't have a lot of light. So my whole life changed since I allowed nature be part of my life.
That's amazing. So, you were just talking about your journey to become a coach and how much you're working on empowering women. Tell me more about that. How did that happen? what got you to that point, and where are you with that until now?
Yeah, thank you so much. So, always since that I am in Latin America, and I'm Latina, and it's a shame to say, but here where I grew up, there's a lot of this macho environment. Here, in my case, I grew up in an environment where women were undervalued because of only the condition to be a women. So that's why for me it was super challenging because everything came from my dad, my granddad also. They had this type of behavior. They said like my granddad and my grandma also, they used to say like, women, we are just to serve our husband, and we would just wanna like do something for them. They, and only men, they can serve us, they can provide us. So my questioning was because my parents are divorced, and my mom always showed me strength, always showed me that it's possible to do whatever you want, but you just have to fight for it. You just have to just keep the eye on it. But my dad, in the opposite way, he was like, I have a sister, and she told me, and my dad told me that he wanted to have two daughters for to serve him, literally to serve him. And that was super shocking because he told me that when I was a child. So I have that memory marked in in my life, in my heart. So then I decided, I just said, I don't want to serve anybody. I just want to be free. I just want to be strong as my mom. And after that, as I was like getting to know some people in the Galapagos while I was there, very young age, and I met a lot of travelers, people who spoke like five languages, very young people who used to travel a lot, not backpackers and more. So I was very, very curious, and I said like, wow, I mean, there I met a lot of women traveling alone. So that's like, why are you traveling? They said, yeah, it's possible. So they gave me some glimpse of knowledge or something, a spark or something, where I decided really to become the owner of my life. So I decided to empower myself to not following all these limiting beliefs of my parents, my granddad, and just travel the world as I met some women that I knew that it's possible. So I know that I'm not the only one who were suffering these type of situations. Also, my dad used to tell me like, women can't travel the world alone. They can't go abroad alone, not even to another city, because you're women. You can have everything by yourself. You need a man. So for me, it was kind of shocking because I have seen a lot of situations here in Latin America about that, and all plus the education in some places, it's not very good, and it's a shame because I say always, if you don't have education, you can't really understand what's happening in the world. You're just following some rules that somebody told you to follow, but if you really don't know what else you can do, or what are your capabilities, your abilities, your skills, so then you won't do anything. You will just settle down for nothing. Then I had a breakthrough, and I started to work with people. I started to coach people like a lot of years ago. For me, it was like a challenge. Like, I want to see more women who stand up for themselves, and they can travel the world, they can make businesses, they can make money, they can be independent, and they don't need a man. Because here in Latin America, it's like you need a man for them to pay you like some dinner. I mean, all the time. And I think because of that, also some men are very abusive. So that's what drives me to build this business based on education and also empowering women.
That's You've just shared so much information, and I understand exactly what you're saying, because there are cultures around the world where masculinity and machoism is still
Hmm.
very much the case, and you're right, it often more likely than not leads to abuse.
Hmm.
That's seriously, it's amazing. So now I'm going to move on to actually just going back to something you said. You said that when you were
Hmm.
meeting female tourists who were traveling alone,
Hmm.
and you said that it was like like almost like an eye-opening moment for you, because it
Hmm.
went against everything that was happening at home that you were being
Yeah.
taught.
Definitely.
And so,
Hmm.
would you say that was that one of those? What was that called? Was that like a really important change for you? Was that like realization that this is just not happening?
There were two moments in my life with this situation that was an eye opening, and they changed everything, my perspective, and like made me become more curious. It's like one, it was when I was, let's say, more or less 7 years old. I didn't speak English, almost nothing, but I met an Australian woman. It was a girl also my age at the time, and I met in a ship, and she told me like she was talking about the kangaroos. And for me, as I mentioned, I always have loved biology, and I have seen a lot of documentaries and everything. So for me, it was, oh my gosh, Australia kangaroos. And then I met that girl who spoke English to me. So for me, it was super shocking because I said I have to learn English. I have to go to Australia. Plus, like some years later, I met another, actually Australian woman too. She was the one who spoke 5 languages because she was traveling around the world, and I met her in a tour actually. And yeah, that was like for me like, wow, it's possible to speak so many languages in a very young age and travel the world even if you are female, if you're, yeah, if you were a woman. So that was super shocking and interesting, and then I was more curious to see and how can I do the same. Uh-huh.
I love that because curiosity is amazing. It's such a powerful feeling.
Yeah.
Just moving on from that. So, who do you look up to up until now? Who have your kind of big role models been?
Mm-hmm. My role models, mainly, well, I have Oprah, for example. Oprah is a very interesting woman who started from nothing, and she also broke all the paradigm. She's black, and also she was when she started to being successful. She was in a time where in the U.S. everything was like they had a lot of racism, and she was able to overcome all those fears, those limitations, and become very successful, believing in herself. And for me, it was like, wow. I mean, if somebody really can start from nothing, even if there's a lot of limitations around yourself, even if your parents, for example, Oprah also mentions that her mom was telling her that she has to serve a guy, I mean, her future husband, or do something because they were kind of slaves at the time. So she said, no, like, no, I'm not gonna be like that. I will be someone big. So that was interesting when I saw Oprah for the first time and I saw that documentary, because it's like I can do also. I mean, if even if in here where I live there are a lot of limitations about money, about what you can do, what you can achieve because of the education, because of the society, what tells you what to do. For me, is like I can do it. I mean, I don't have any limitations. I have the power of the word, the language, and that's why actually I was pushed by myself to learn English and speak also French. So for me was I need to understand the world, and actually that drove me to travel. No, that was also another curiosity to start traveling and to understand more about the cultures, how some people can like start from zero and being so successful. Another role model for me is Tony Robbins. He's someone who really so far influenced me so much. Is a great guy, and I, yeah, I have changed a lot because of him. Yeah, and his history also. Hmm.
Yeah, no, definitely. Really, two really powerful stories there. You yourself are a very powerful, inspirational person. So,
Thank you.
when you say that you've learnt different languages because you're curious to learn about the cultures, how much do you think learning the language has taught you about the different cultures that you're so curious about?
That's a good question. Well, I started to learn English itself very curious when I was like 5, 6 years old. But then how that allowed me to know more about cultures itself, it was because I used to travel continuously to the Galapagos. I was living there and in Quito. So speaking English around the time allowed me to interact more with tourists. And then they used to tell me where they are from, whether what I can I find in their countries, where how I can travel more. So I was very curious more about that. So I was taking notes literally. If they told me, for example, I am from Germany, I am from US, and from different cities, not only the country. So I was taking notes, and it's like, oh my god, here there's like people like to dress like this. Here people like to do that. So along the time when I started to earn money, I decided to I just wanted to visit all those places because I wanted to know more about the culture. And as English is an universal language, actually that allowed me to know to interact more with people. And now with French, I started to learn French 6 years ago. And then, well, the French Alliance where I studied in my country, they taught us a lot about the French culture. But as I always mention, I love to travel, so I decided to go to France just to experience how is the day alive for a French person, no? So I started to I have a I don't know. For me, it's easy to make friends and to contact people and
Yeah, I
talk to
believe I
people.
believe that. I believe that. you
Yes, I don't know. It has been a blast, I mean, I like it. So yeah, I decided to go to France and I started to talk with people in the streets or just making friends. And then yeah, and I went to not to live, but just I stayed some days in one of my friends' place, and she's French, and also it's a very multicultural ambience. So I learned more about the culture. I went to eat where the French people eat, not those tourist places, and that was amazing. And that's the way how I like to travel. Actually, when I go to visit another country, of course I visit the main spots, the touristic spots, but mainly I like to interact with locals. They go to very humble places and to eat with them, and also to go to those fancy places where you can understand what's the difference or how can they manage it, how can they handle the situations. So just to understand that what's the behavior, no? It has been amazing because in some places, I mean, there are like more than 50 countries who speak French, and
Yes,
it's
lots
cool, no?
around the world. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so you've mentioned that you've traveled a lot. Now, I want to tell everyone, or you should tell everyone,
Mhm.
how many countries have you traveled to?
Okay. Well, so far I have traveled 27 countries and well, plus than 100 cities. I had a lot of plans as I think as everyone for this 2020. But anyway, I couldn't. So I have plans for 2021 to continue traveling and living abroad. And yeah, understand more people, understand more cultures. I have a dream to go to Africa. I wanted to go to Africa this year to just to because of nature, because of there's a lot of nature there, and I want to make a volunteer in the job there. Yeah, that inspires me a lot.
Yeah, 27 countries and 100 cities. I love that. And still counting. Still counting.
Yeah, I still counting. Yeah, forever. I
Yeah,
think
good.
it's an obsession that won't stop, never ever.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Good. No,
Uh-huh.
that's good. So in terms of the empowering women in business, can
Hmm.
you run us through the type of things that you do? So, because obviously I've seen some of the stuff that you've been doing, some of the stuff I've seen that you've been working on, but for the listeners, would you be able to kind of give them an idea? So if somebody was listening to this and they felt all the things that you have felt and experienced and they want to do something different, what can they do and what advice would you give them?
Hmm. Yeah. So what I do in my business right now, it's I help women to build successful online businesses. Specifically, I focus in online businesses. To the main focus also is achieve freedom, like freedom in different ways, like emotional, geographical, financial, of course, and to being able to squeeze life, as I always say, squeeze life in the way that you really can enjoy and say, like, I have lived this life on my terms, on my way, and you don't have to regret later, So the way how I like to work with women is for those, first of all, for those who want to make an impact in the world, because as I mentioned, for every client that I have, I donate. Actually, on behalf of my clients, we can contribute to education for more women, for more children. They can have more opportunities. So for me, it's important to work with women who want to start a business and they want to make some contribution to the society to impact some people. And of course, I know that the main focus for every business owner is, of course, to get some cash flow and income and money. That's important, of course. But if you can get that money from helping people, that it could be amazing. So that's what drives me on businesses. And also because I was working in a corporate job when I was a scientist in a research center. And I discovered that working in four walls for me was not something that I really wanted to do, even though it took a lot of time because I was also living in Barcelona. I studied a master degree there, and I decided to really to change my life and not pursue that way because if you're not happy where you are now, where you are working with people with people who are you are surrounded with, you really can't perform. You can't really like make your business or do your job really well because you will be thinking like maybe there's something else for me. Maybe I know that I have a lot of potential, I have a lot of skills in me, but I don't know how to start because that's what happened to me. I didn't know how to start. I followed all the rules of my society that told me, like, and here's not a big thing like making businesses. It's not something that they teach us in the university. So I discovered this that I wanted to become an entrepreneur because also I met a lot of entrepreneurs in Galapagos who were traveling. So I decided to live alive on my own terms and have the freedom to enjoy, to squeeze my life and also to help others. So I really believe that if you're not fulfilled in your job, if you really are not fulfilled and you feel like you have more potential, you really want to do something else in your life, then take a decision to change, to make the change now. Because time is the most valuable thing in the world, more than money. So the time won't come back, never, ever, and never. So for every second, for every day that you delay your dream, you are not allowing other person benefit from your job, from your story. And for every day that you're delaying your dreams, also you are postponing your happiness. And this is something very interesting because I have seen a lot of people who are just working for the paycheck, for they were just working for money because of course they need it. And I understand that. But when you really can get rid of those fears in your head that tell you that you need to invest, you need to do this, you need to get more skills. Yeah, you need to get more skills, you need to invest because if you try to discover the wheel, it's like you're going to take longer and the time is the most valuable asset. So if it's better if you have some guidance, and that's why I help them. I help them to reach their goals because I know that's possible. If it was possible for me, that I started from nothing and that I got a lot of fears, a lot of limitations, even money limitations. But it's just a matter of one decision that can shift your life forever. Just explore your possibilities. I know that some people think like, oh, you need a lot of money for a business or for investing in a business coach, in a coach or in a program. I mean, yeah, you need money, but don't think like it's just a waste of money. It's an investment that really, when you get rid of those fears, you realize that you can do more, way more, triple time, three times more what you invested, and you will have a knowledge that won't go away. So just, I mean, not everybody wants to start a business. Not everybody have the same skills for for starting a business. But if you know that there's something else for you, there's a spark, there's a potential that you know that you can give more. Take yourself the chance. I mean, give yourself a chance to an opportunity just to explore. And sometimes what I see people is like, yeah, they explore, they go to some program, probably they hire a coach and they got disappointed by the coach or the program or something. And it's okay. Sometimes we make bad decisions, we make some mistakes, but don't give up. I mean, if you have a dream, don't give up because there's a lot of ways. You just have to keep pursuing your goal, keep pursuing in different ways because there's, I mean, the possibility to fail is lower as soon as you keep trying, keep improving, keep doing the same, and you keep seeing more the possibilities than the odds, no, the objections that you can have. Mhm.
Yes, no, definitely. So, in that, you talked about people having fears. Now, I have a question for you, which is I think I know the answer, but I'm still going to ask,
Okay.
have you faced your fears head on? And if yes, how did that feel?
Well, yes. I mean, I have faced a lot of fears. I am still afraid. I can't say that fears, when you work with them to overcome them, they will just go away, they will disappear, because that's not true. I mean, fears is a reaction of your body, is a reaction of your mind just to keep you alert. And what I have learned is like fears won't go away, but you will know how to handle them, for them not for they can't affect your life, your decisions, your future, and what you really want. Because, for example, in my case, my fear was that I was not enough. My main fear that was like, well, I had also the imposter syndrome, like who I am to teach this, who I am to tell them what to do. But and also there's a lot of, I have realized this after my experience, after working with a lot of people, after going to some different places, that so many people think like for starting a business you need lot of set of skills, a lot of things to start, like getting a certification, getting a degree, getting a diploma, or getting, I mean, they're delaying to start their businesses. But when you really know your story, all the things that you have overcome, you know that you have all the strength, all the knowledge, all the power within you. Probably if you take a course, of course, that helps you to know how to teach, but you already know, you already have it in your within you. So my main fear was that like I wasn't enough, and that's why I studied a lot, I got some degrees, I also got my coaching certification. But actually, I mean, no. I mean, you see, for example, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins doesn't have any certification in anything. It's just the way how do they train themselves. Of course, self education is super important, but my main fear was like I wasn't enough, and it was very difficult because I also had a fear of charging more for my services at the beginning. It was very difficult for me, and just to know that I am valuable. I used to charge very low for a very great program, and also was a bit insecure because I really wanted to have some customers and clients, but I didn't know how to get them. And I thought that if I lower my prices, probably they will come to me. But when I worked on my mindset, when I worked with me and the way how I was like building my business, and also with a coach, because I really needed a coach. I mean, all I have a phrase that one of my mentors have is like, not all athletes have a coach, but the Olympians do. So that means that if you really want to be the best, you really need to have somehow advice or somebody who can see something else in you that you don't see yourself.
That's
So
great. Yeah.
so what I found with me is like I was just very scared. But when I was working with my coach, with my mentors, with people, with my colleagues, my group, my community, then I decided that yeah, I am enough, and I have a unique story to tell. I have something so powerful, and nobody else in the world is like me. There are a lot of tons of business coaches. There are a lot of things, but nobody has the same story as me. Nobody has the same fear or obstacles that I have surpassed. And also in a business, 70% of a business is mindset, and only 30% is strategies. So for me, it's super important to be aligned with that. And yeah, I could, let's say, turn down the volume of that voice of fear that I have in my mind, but sometimes comes out this voice, but I just don't listen to it. And that's why I always, when I'm posting, I always try to clarify and just to write again, like fear will come towards you, but don't listen to it, because it's an expert on overshadowing your dreams. And when you listen your fear, you don't see all the possibilities. You don't see how resourceful you can be to achieve your goals, because there's always fear. But it's up on you to know how to overcome that fear.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It seems like you said, fear is self-limiting, but
Mhm.
it's a necessary evil, I guess,
Mhm.
because it keeps you
Yeah.
alert, right? And we have
Yeah.
to be alert because we're alive.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you. No, and I love that quote as well. I absolutely love the quote from your mentor.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
For me was like very shocking, because that's true. I mean, everybody can be athlete. I mean, yeah, you have to be disciplined, but if you want to be the best, you want to be in Olympics, you need to have a coach, and for that you need to have somebody who empowers you to see the greatness on you, and that's amazing.
Oh, I love that. I totally love that. So, coming back to you, so how do you challenge yourself to be the best version of you?
Oh, great question. Well, I have changed a lot my habits, and I have learned the value of setting priorities. So for me, of course, in my business, not only my business, in my life itself, I have my priorities, which is my family. I don't have kids. I'm not married, but I have my mom and my sister. So they live in Quito permanently, so I am always traveling. So this year has been a blessed for me because I could have the chance to be with them closer. And how do I challenge myself is just focusing on what's important for me. As I mentioned, my family, freedom, it's super super important, and that comes from my business because my business gives me freedom, and I take care a lot of my business. For taking care a lot of my business, I need to perform well. I need to be in my 10th state. So for that, I need to have a lot of energy, and the energy comes from my daily routine. And I am a very early morning person, and actually that helps me a lot to focus and to organize my day. I know that there are some people who perform better at night or evening, and it's okay. But in my case, I'm very early morning person because I think when I wake up early, when I go, because I love running. When I go to run before starting to work, that gives me a lot of energy and satisfaction because I said, okay, one more day accomplished my routine, going to run with no excuses, and also that gives me a lot of focus. Because when I don't go to run, because there, of course, there's some days where I don't want to go. When I don't go to run, it's like I feel so like low with energies. I don't feel like I can perform well. I feel a little bit sleepy, and then so I need to. I know that it's good for me, and I love and enjoy it running. So that's why I go there. So it's the habits. Also, for example, the way how I feed, myself, my food, what I give to my body. It's important because for really give the best to your clients, in my case, my clients, I need to be, with high energies. I can't have a coaching session with low energies and just, I think my clients, because they are trusting in me, they of course they pay me, but they are trusting in me, and they are also making an impact in the world, and I want to help them to make, and I want to impact them to change their world. I need to be in the 100% state, and that's why it's important for me to have energy, also being organized with my schedule, with my, and also having some free time. Sometimes, like when we're developing or building businesses, we think that we have to, and that was one of my mistakes, because at the beginning I was like, oh my god, I need to work on this like 10-12 hours per day. I don't care, I'm building a business. But that's not good. That can really affect your performance and the way how you serve people, because you overwhelm yourself. So that, for me, what has been life changing is, it's also like relaxation. Just sleep well, rest, and have a free time, just not thinking about business, just thinking about me, how can I be better one more day, and reading and journaling. That helps me a lot to keep on track.
Yeah, I love that. I totally connect with that because if you're 110%, you give 110%, and the
Yeah.
people you're giving that 110% then to go out and share that same, right?
Yes, exactly.
So going into what you said about food and what you feed your body, because you said you're vegetarian, and I'm quite
Yeah.
interested this because Latin America is not known for vegetarianism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me. Tell me, how did this happen?
This is something that I still don't believe, but I keep going. Yeah, I became vegetarian when I was in Europe, living in Europe, in Barcelona. Then I went to live in San Sebastian, in the Basque country. Actually, that's a place where there's a lot of meat. But I became vegetarian because, like 3 years ago, since I was studying food innovation and product development as a master degree, and I was, as I mentioned, from my whole life, for me it's important the conservation, ecosystem, and everything related to it. So in that master, I learned how much water consume just 1 kilo of meat, and for me it was super shocking, because it was thousands of liters of water just for 1 kilo, or how much carbon dioxide you can get from just for producing just 1 kilo of meat. So it was, the numbers were shocking for me. And I said, okay, I'm not willing to do this because I'm coming from the Galapagos, and I see how one minimum change, everything can change in the ecosystem. And for me, that's very important. So that's why I became vegetarian. And that's why, actually, well, I was very strict with myself. And I went to Asia. And in Asia also, there's a lot of meat and chicken and all those stuff. But I could be I could be very disciplined in that way because I knew that I had a reason for that, and I had to be very consistent with what I talk about. When I came back to my country, the main and national dish is pork, and it's very tasty. So it was a challenge, to be honest. It was because I haven't tried that dish in a long time. I was living in Spain for 1 year and a half. So I haven't tried that, and I just smelling that brought me all the taste. But I said, no, I mean, somehow I conditioned my brain just to reject any kind of meat. So really, I conditioned my brain, and when I saw that, even it was smelling pretty well. I was just watching the meat and just imagining. I don't know. I conditioned my brain to feel like it's disgusting and it's not good, and it was easy later. And my family is not vegetarian at all.
How does
So
that work? Because that's hard when you're
yeah,
the only one.
yes, it so far is still a bit difficult. I live alone here, but when I go to visit to my family, it's like wow, and they already know, like, oh wow, you're vegetarian. We have to cook something else for you.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie, can you tell us how many degrees you have in total, please?
Okay. Well, I have four. Let's say biotechnology engineering. That's my undergrad degree. Then I have a master degree in food innovation and product development. And I also have a degree in tourism as a tourist guide. And now I am a coach. I am a certified coach now in business.
That's amazing because, again, like you said, becoming educated and aware is not something that's very common across all different cultures.
Yeah.
So, you've really kind of used your experience of growing up and being told that these are things you can't do to your
Yeah.
advantage
Yeah.
and use that. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to transmit, because I have seen so many women that I think that, I mean, something I have noticed in my trips and also just understanding how the world works. It's like I was saying, why in Latin America? I mean, we have such a kind of poor countries, like third world countries. Why, if we in Latin America, we have a lot of like land, we have many, many like material for that we export to industrial countries, and of course they transform the material to a product. And I was like, why we can't have that? And I understood that there's a lack of, yeah, I mean, the education system, it's terrible. Not, I mean, not all of that, but it's terrible in the way that they teach us to be employees. They don't teach us to think more than that, to be entrepreneurs. What I've seen in some other countries, like let's say US or Europe, also in UK, I mean, people focus more in feeding the mind, no, in feeding the mind, and to study a little bit more. And it's not such an obligation for everybody. Only those who want to study, it's okay if they go to the university, they go to study because they have the opportunity, they have the money or whatever. But here in Latin America, it's like you must do. I mean, if you don't study, I mean, it's very low the percentage of people who finish the high school who don't go to the university. Most of people who finish the high school, they go to the university, even if they are like, we have to pay the university, or they are from the state, but a public, no? But it's like an obligation. It's not something that they have to do. It's just the system. It's just the way how we are educated. But there's a lack of understanding about this, because when you force somebody to do what they don't want to do, they won't do it well. So they won't perform well. They will be unhappy, and then we have a lot of problems here because with lack of good performance and those stuff. So what I've seen is like, okay, in those countries like US, UK, or Europe, and I mean some countries where they have very good professionals, also it's because they chose to be like they chose to study. They wanted to study something specific, and even, I mean, and they went to study because, and then they got some loans. They were trying to find the money to study, so they take advantage of it, and then that's why they perform well, and etc. So that's the difference. One of the differences, what I have noticed.
It is quite different, and I see exactly what you mean. It's almost like there's an expectation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That brings me on to my next question to you, which is you have a mission to educate young children around the world.
Hmm.
Your coaching is very much around empowering women with online businesses.
Hmm.
Please tell me more. I love it. Just talk to me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's something I really want to achieve. And then, I mean, with my coaching business, I'm an associate. I have a partnership, let's say, with an organization called Business for Good. So this organization, I have a membership in that organization with my business. So anytime that I have or my clients they have an impact, which means that, for example, if one of my clients get another client or they make the change to some people's lives, so I donate on behalf of them to some different projects. So we can choose projects for like sexual trafficking. We can choose like to work with women, to work with men, to, I mean, different ones. In my case, I chose the project to educate women, educate children, because I know that if we start from the very young ages, we can make a change in the world. So anytime that I have assigned another client into my coaching business, I donate almost the 10% of my income to this organization and to this project. So it's mainly an education. After that, they will destinate the money to provide them like days of education or books or yeah, or more opportunities or some years of education. Yeah, so they can in different countries in the world. So far, I have helped to some people in Uganda, in India, in Malawi, if I'm right. And I want to start working with Latin America too.
That's amazing. One last thing.
Yeah.
Do you have one question for the listeners for them to bring them closer in their journey to find their best selves? Would you like
Hmm.
to leave them a question?
Yeah, that's a very good, interesting. I would say, what would you do if you can work in something that you fulfill the most? How would you contribute to the world, and how does it help you to achieve all your goals?
Perfect. I love that. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Eternal Paradigm. Join me next time.